Did you guys know that Atsu was originally supposed to be played by Karen Fukuhara, but she was told that she didn't have enough experience, so they gave it to Erika Ishii, which is insane because did you also know that Atsu wasn't even the original character for Ghost of Yote and it was originally going to be Jin Sakai, but they gutted it for a female lead? Of course you don't, because none of that's true. The only proof that Karen was supposed to be Atsu was a random tweet on Twitter, and there is literally no evidence to support that Jin Sakai was supposed to be in Ghost of Yote, no matter how many sources Indiamon comes up with. But then that raises the question, doesn't it? How have we gotten to the point where blatant lies can get almost zero pushback? I mean, to me, I think the answer is pretty simple. Conspiracy theorist.
Most everyone's mad here.
Now, when I say conspiracy theorists, I don't mean people that like take a bit of the in-game lore and expand on it, right? I'm talking about the stuff that grifters and grifter adjacent people push, like a shitified fire hose. Going back to Indiamon, remember when he said he had sources in Ubisoft and then was like, yeah, they originally had a Japanese male as the lead, but then suddenly, against the knowledge of like the programmers or the people doing the modeling, they completely changed it out. And the people who were working on it didn't even realize that until they were like doing a like internal demo, and they're like, wait a minute, what happened to our main character who was a Japanese man? And they suddenly made it a woman. That's strange.
I vetted these sources, and they have indeed worked with Ubisoft for many years, as well as other game studios as well. I was also told when they originally saw the game, there was indeed a male Japanese protagonist with their own finalized art and even animations. They don't know if this character will be reintroduced in order to replace Yasuke, but they are skeptical that Ubisoft will actually remove Yasuke altogether due to the whole political, backlash they'll get from journalists and so on. Let me start with what I was told recently. I was contacted by someone who worked on the original version of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and they laid out to me what the story was before it was eventually scrapped by Ubisoft for the Yasuke story. Originally, the plot of Shadows was supposed to surround a piece of Eden like other games called the Sword of Eden. It was an Isu artifact like the apple or the staff in Odyssey, but this sword would corrupt its wielders with power and then give them dominion over others. The hero of the original story was named Taka Yamauchi, who was a Shinto monk. Taka was decided to be a follower of Shintoism because it was a unique religion within Japan at the time.
I have covered that before, and I called that as a lie originally, but, because it is. But I think now it's more than just a lie. If you really think about it, they constructed an entire story to create a situation in which rogue programmers in Ubisoft went against the wishes of like their superiors in order to forcibly wokeify Assassin's Creed. Like, it's this narrative they have to create it out of just like whole cloth that transform it from just a simple lie to a conspiracy. And not only that, but it creates a breeding ground for more insane takes like, that's right, US aid paid Politico to push out anti-gamer sentiments. I mean, of course that's true. I mean, it was reported by people like Vera Dark and, oh God.
People wonder are tax dollars used to promote wokeness in video games? Answer is yes. USAID paid Politico millions of dollars a year to write pieces like this one, which promotes diversity and describes Gamergate as disinformation and harassment campaign. So this is the thing, guys. I want these people to suffer because that's what they did to me.
Okay, so obviously, again, not true, because of course it wasn't. Politico doesn't need to do anything to make gamers look insane. Trust me, we have that covered already. They tried to say that Politico and like other outlets were unfairly criticizing Gamergate, which is insane to me because if you remember Gamergate, the literal hate movement against women in gaming, who had thought leaders such as Sargon of Akkad as, mainstays. Why do you think Politico would need to be used in order to paint Gamergate as a bad thing? That doesn't make any sense. right? Oh, and speaking of Gamergate, I mean, there was no way I was going to do a video about the weird conspiracy theories happening in video games and not talk about Sweet Baby Inc. Like, there was no way. Because, you know, Sweet Baby Inc. was responsible for the downfall of the gaming industry. This powerful company of like 12 people from Canada literally are at the core of any video game that had a diverse character, especially if they had nothing to do with said game. They could have done something as small as background dialogue, and people will attribute that to why a certain game went woke. I mean, hell, according to these people online, they forced Sony Santa Monica to make a character in God of War black, Angry Boda. And apparently they did the same exact thing with Alan Wake 2, you know, making Saga Anderson a black woman instead of the white woman she originally was. They even blackmailed Game Science for $7 million. They also made sure that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, well, you know, made all the male characters dumb and boring and stupid, and Wonder Woman the best character ever. Which, once again, if you're not catching on to this trend, isn't what happened. Fabrication, made up. Because that's not how consultant agencies work. And not just gaming, but in literally any field. At most, they give you like advice if you want to create a certain character who's from a different background and you have no experience with it. You go to a consulting agency and they can be like, hey, we have a person, or hey, we know a person. Or if you're doing like sensitivity reading, which happens in other fields, by the way, they will be like, hey, this might be taken out of context. This kind of sounds kind of shitty, or this dialogue doesn't sound naturalistic. But like, they can't force a company to do what they want. That's, again, insane. But speaking of companies being forced to do things, okay, in all honesty, this one's a bit more generalized, but it's a very common refrain I've seen. Basically, there's this conspiracy that all these multi-million to multi-billion dollar companies have been infiltrated by woke activists with the plot of taking over and or destroying gaming. It's the aforementioned Sweet Baby Inc. It's the consultant agency Hit Detection. It's the woke games journalists with the power to somehow cancel games before they come out. It's the forced diversity in games that solely exist to push the agenda of the Soros-backed companies. It's the global elite trying to push their propaganda so that gamers have no choice but to become woke. And the biggest perpetrator of all of this, of course, is BlackRock. You know, BlackRock, the world's largest asset management company. BlackRock is why we have DEI in games and ESG in games and I don't know, other acronyms in games, CRT, CTR, MSG, all that's because of BlackRock. If a game was woke, you guys, because the cabal that runs BlackRock has made it so. I mean, look, they have stock in NVIDIA and Microsoft. Microsoft pushed, you know, a game called South of Midnight. And that game only exists so Microsoft could get ESG and DEI points. See, they're not even hiding it. It's just out there in the open because they know the agenda's got to be pushed, and they're supported by the biggest company out there. BlackRock also has stock in Amazon, and Amazon made the Fallout show. And if you notice, the Fallout show doesn't have any cis white guys there. In fact, there's just a white woman and I think like a black guy. And in fact, the only white guy who's important on the show, you don't even get to see his face because masculine cis white men aren't allowed anymore because that goes against the propaganda being pushed by them. They don't get the DEI ESG points if they have a white guy front and center. He has to be ghoulified. Okay. Obviously, I'm being a little facetious here, but like you get the point, right? Like no longer are things the result of a natural progression of society technology, right? We're not having more diverse characters because the world is not only more diverse because it's always been diverse, but our society is now more accepting than it was when games first, took off. Same thing with movies. No, that's not true. It's because powerful elites have been worming their way into gaming. If anyone in the gaming industry tries to tell you something to clear misconception, well, they're just gaslighting you. But like a random content creator with no connections to the wider gaming industry is somehow trustworthy. this is the paradox that conspiratorial thinking creates. One where the more distance you have from a subject, the more trustworthy you appear to be. That's why content creators can say shit like Western game companies are making women ugly on purpose. And they'll have thousands of people agreeing with them, saying W, I know this to be true because of X, Y, and Z. But then someone who may be closer to the gaming industry, whether they're like a publisher, a developer, what have you, will try to explain, well, actually, what happens to face scans is they're taking like raw images, and the images you're seeing on most often time are like these headshots, which are all like proper, different kind of lighting. And it's like, nope, you're a shell.
Come to Alana Pierce, she decided that, hey, I'm going to weigh in on this as well. So she pretty much left a video saying that, now women are ugly in video games, and she pretty much gave her reasons why women look the way they look in video games today compared to what it was like a long time ago. And you gotta hear her response. It just blew my mind. It just baffled me.
Someone with like a camera in front of their face. Motion capture is when they're moving their bodies. Performance capture is able to pick up more nuances of the human face. And so hand in hand with improved graphical fidelity in video games, you are able to actually capture more like micro movements in the human face. So your face scans need to be more accurate and in general a little bit more human, thus more flawed.
This kind of thinking also creates a defense for fans of content creators that have a very, let's say, loose relationship with the truth. They can blame the recent shooting in Minnesota square in the feet of minority group and get praised for it one day.
Like, I'll just say it the way it is. A lot of people might not like this. That's why I'm going to do it. The amount of LGBT people that very openly and just brazenly advocate for and celebrate violence against people that don't acknowledge their lifestyle as being legitimate needs to be zero. The amount of people that should be doing that on social media, the goal number of that should be zero. And right now it's socially tolerated in a way that I think is completely unacceptable.
And then the very next day say, actually, there was no specific group responsible for this, and also get praised for it. Hell, I've seen people on this app, on this platform, present themselves as these edgy shitlords who don't give a shit about anything and are bigots and hell yeah, let's put slurs in our titles and all this other shit. And then also have a Discord where it's please be nice. Don't be mean. People in my comment sections, when I comment on those kinds of videos, tell me, well, you're an idiot, you fell for it. These people are just trolls. Or my favorite is, they're just playing a character. And yet it's these same people who will then say, well, these guys are authentic and these games industry people are fake. And that's why we like the authentic guys. It doesn't make sense. It's the people who are mad at game journalists because they're part of this cabal, again, inside the gaming industry, and they'll do anything to protect the gaming industry, and they're incentivized to do so because when they write either reports or reviews, they somehow, don't have contracts beforehand and get paid by the views, which is not how it works. But again, that's what they think. But then YouTubers who literally get paid by the views are somehow not incentivized to create the most outlandish story in order to get the most clicks. Do you see how that doesn't make any sense? And I could sit here and explain all of this, right? All of these things. But ultimately, this is a problem with the audience. There is an audience out there that has been conditioned to such a degree because these conspiracy theorists that they will accept anything as long as there's no proof behind it. Because the minute there's proof there, then they can't, engage in their conspiratorial thinking. It has to be, I'm going to just say, for example, I can just lie, right? Because lying is OP. I could say the reason why Assassin's Creed sold more than you thought is because Ubisoft made a deal with Tencent, and Tencent's the biggest company in China, and they forced people in China to buy their games in order to make the game look better. I could just say that. And some people, because of confirmation bias, will be like, yeah, that feels right. I don't need any proof. Hell, Sweet Baby Inc. tried to extort game signs for $7 million. Yeah, that sounds right. We are in a world now where the truth is inconvenient. Lies are what sells, right? We're doing all of this in the name of content. There are so many content creators out that will just straight up, unequivocally lie to you, not misinterpreting things, not, misremembering or anything that can give them benefit of doubt. No, they will straight up lie. But you, the audience, you like that. You say you want someone who's authentic, but then someone authentically believes, like, I don't know, we should have empathy. It's LOL empathy. If someone like me says that, hey, video games are art and we should respect it and treat it as such, I get hit with LOL, games are art, right? Because you don't want anyone who's authentic. You want someone to regurgitate things that you already believe to you to make you feel better, right? That's why, again, I can use myself as an example. I will get comments when I talk about other content creators who happen to be larger than me, right? Just saying that I'm doing this for views or for clout, and they have more subscribers and more views, therefore their opinions better or worth more. And I'm like, you can't live life with the idea that ad populum, which is a fallacy, is the reality, right? Just because someone has more views or more subscribers doesn't mean everything they say is like more correct. But again, because these conspiracy theorists have created all of this bullshit, we are now dealing with it. We are now dealing with a constant barrage of the most insane conspiracies. And the more insane, the more attention they get, the more they'll do it. And I, for one, am very tired of that, which is why I do put out content that seems, at the very least, in essence, to try to debunk or to make people think more critically, like, hey, does this make sense to you? Does it make sense to you that Sweet Baby Inc. has all this power, that BlackRock has all this power? If BlackRock wants to make games woke, then why haven't every single game that come out been woke by your standards? In fact, why are the non-woke games allowed to come out? Like, that's the problem with all this conspiracy thinking. There is no actual thinking. It's just the acceptance of things. We just accept it. And then people like me try to get you to think we're the enemy. I'm trying to tell you guys, I am not your enemy. I'm trying to get you to understand that there are people who are making you worse in order to profit off of you. That's it. That's all they want to do. It's all the profit off of you. And you're letting them do this continuously because they're just telling you what you're already thinking. Well, that's not good. Like, really think about it. What is the benefit of following someone who's just going to say everything that you're thinking with adding no more context, no proof, no nothing? Also, for the guys who are inevitably going to come to my comment section and try to talk shit, I have a question for you too. What does it do for you? Like, okay, your favorite content creator has 10 million subscribers. I don't. You're going to say he has more views than me, or I'm chasing clout or whatever. Okay. But what does that do for you? Like, does his following count improve your material conditions? Are you being paid because they're getting views? Why are you attaching yourself so fully to these people when they are trying to get you to believe shit like Politico was pushing anti-Gamergate messaging because the government paid them to do so? Like, how do you rationalize that? I'm being completely honest. How do you rationalize that? How do you rationalize that Gamergate, in fact, was just about ethics in games journalism, when then you see it happening again and again and again and again and again, and it has nothing to do with games journalism? Like, how are we at this point where you guys can sit here and say, I'm every name under the sun because of what I just believe when I say, but then when I give you proof of the person you love so much lying to you, it's my fault. I'm the bad guy. Like, you guys got to stop falling for these conspiracy theories. Just start actually thinking and using the internet to find information. Because ultimately, they're making you dumber to make more money off of you. And I don't want that for you guys.